Hello, everybody. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I'm so happy to be here with a second video. That's right, I did a poll today, and I want to see which one the YouTube algorithm favors. Are we going trailer reaction, which I just did earlier about The King's Man, or are we going controversy with Scarlett Johansson? Oh my gosh, people are losing their minds on Twitter. Some with valid reason. Others, I think, not so much, and I am going to try and dip my toe in this, even though some told me not to. But I've lost the card to Hollywood, so who cares? I've already lost everything. Why not try and say my piece? In order to do it, she's going to try and lose it with me. Welcome Toddy to the show. Hey, Toddy.
Hi.
We're going to handle something we probably shouldn't bear to talk about, because this really upset the trans community recently, where Scarlett Johansson, I'm going to go to the headline. Scarlett Johansson made some comments earlier about, in an article, that she should be able to play any person, tree, animal. This was sort of what happened, and this article sums it all up. But she says that in the original statement she made, as an actor, I should be able to play any person or any tree or any animal, because that's my job and the requirements of my job, she said in a cover story for As If magazine. Added Johansson, I feel like political correctness is a trend in my business, and it needs to happen for various social reasons, yet there are times it does get uncomfortable when it affects the art, because I feel art should be free of restrictions. Now, this sent people got very upset. Scarlett Johansson is a cisgender white woman with a powerful platform with no shortage of work opportunities. Trans people should be played trans people, period. It is incredibly disappointing that she has learned nothing and clearly does not care about the experience of trans people. I will not be seeing any films that involve Scarlett Johansson moving forward. I do not want to give my money to someone who trivializes the oppression of trans people and diminishes the importance of visibility. ScarJo is the highest paid person in $40 million. She feels entitled to take roles away from Asians, trans, and other represented actors. This just continued to go. There were a lot of people who defended her. Scarlett Johansson said she wants to play any role she wants, like actors do. That's what you're all bitching about today. But the reality was, this really started when if we go way back, she started by doing Ghost in the Shell, which a lot of people were upset about Asian actors. You recall that story as well, yes, Toddy?
Right.
That story went around, and then this came back, and this was sort of the second time with the same director, mind you. I think she should stop working with that director. It's probably not a good move that this director twice now has tried to do weird casting with her. But anyway, beyond that, she did back out amongst the people complaining. She did drop out of this role she was in called Rub and Tug, in which she was going to play a transgender male. In light of recent ethical questions raised surrounding my casting as Dante Tex Gill, I have decided to respectfully withdraw my participation in the project. And that, seemed to help some people. People were happy that she finally listened, and because they got angry, they made a perspective for it. It did make a difference. So that all worked until this happened, obviously. And now what happened today, by her saying she can play a tree, a lot of people jumped to conclusions and assumed she was calling trans people trees and just trivializing their effort and their struggle. And that's really why I'm bringing this video up today, because look, people have. I had some tiffs on Twitter about this, and I tried to have civil discourse about this. As a cis white male, I've been told I'm not allowed to have an opinion on this. I can't talk about this. And that frustrates me, because I do feel like I support this cause. And I think it's very odd that for people in the trans community to say, well, trans people should only play trans roles. And a lot of people are saying that to this weird degree where it's trans people should play all roles.
Yeah.
That's I think the biggest thing I want to make clear in this video. They should have a million roles. Correct.
Yeah. I would want to play any role that I could play. Right. I wouldn't want to just be what I am,
Right. And I think that trivializes and makes it they can only do certain roles, and where it's no, we shouldn't even make it a thing. Trans people should just be in parts as the janitor or the waiter or this in the background, or just as the boss. There are just moments where that can just become a normal thing.
Right.
And that's what should happen. And we should be pushing studios to make those decisions. And I think we're being very unfair to just completely aim our laser targets at Scarlett Johansson. And the reason people are saying, well, we're not bullying her. Yes, people are bullying her. They're canceling her.
Yeah.
Someone's about to get canceled. Oh, Scarlett Johansson is canceled. I said what I said. there's, if you go, I just search the word Scarlett Johansson canceled, you can find so many. We all agree Scarlett Johansson's canceled, right? Like that's something we can all agree on. I mean, this is just ridiculous. And obviously there are some people who are standing up to this. Scarlett Johansson, please stop. We all know how Hollywood goes. Your PR team is going to clean up your mess, while we all know your original comments were not taken out of context, but a statement, how you feel you own, you messed up, you're canceled. She should have been canceled a long time ago. I mean, you can go and find it yourself. There are absolutely are hundreds of thousands of people who are just ripping her apart, saying she's not an ally to this cause. And I think it's just really troubling because there's two important things, and I want to then turn over to you and get your thoughts on this. But for me, there's just two main points that I wanted to sort of come clear on. One, of course, trans people need to be better represented in Hollywood. Absolutely. That is not the argument. I don't think Scarlett Johansson is denying that. I don't see a lot of people saying that isn't the case. But this idea that Scarlett Johansson be bullied into like giving up roles to trans people who deserve roles. Look, this is maybe an unpopular opinion. This may get me in trouble. Hollywood's not a charity. Hollywood is a business. And the reality of this business is Scarlett Johansson worked her ass off to get where she is against so many men and people that the sexism in that industry. To be a bankable female movie star, like I applaud her to a degree, and I think it's unfair that we're just rallying our team on her for her doing her job, because I think she is correct. When you go read the statement in context, they are having a conversation. Trying to find it here so we can look through it. They are having a conversation about roles and what happens, and she's not at all trying to talk. They didn't bring up this trans role. She's just talking in general, and I think while what she says does deserve a conversation for sure, what she says isn't inaccurate. It may be a little ignorant. It may be a little bit, she needs to pause. But reading Toddy, I want to not just keep talking, bring to you, but like reading the context of what she said, do you feel like she was out of context? Do you feel like what she said is wrong?
Yes and no. For her to say that she can play absolutely any role in a perfect world, yes. In the world that we live in,
You're good. Just our headphones chopped it. Go ahead. In the perfect world we live in.
Yeah, I don't think that she can play absolutely any role. I think that she should have the ability to play most of them.
Right.
But I don't think that it's fair for her to say that she can play absolutely any role. Talent-wise, I'm sure she could kill any role out there. But
well, I mean, I would go harsh and say talent-wise, I haven't seen her show that much range to be a Hilary Swank or anybody who can actually show that. She is good at her action roles, so like not to knock her, but it's like I could understand if someone was like, I wish they need to hire some better actor for this role. I could see that argument, but and what you said is fair. Can she play any role? No. You guys did your own video, and I laughed, and you're like, could she play Malcolm X? No, she probably couldn't pull that off. At the same time, I understand where she's saying in the perfect world, art should be the result of collaboration, except all the things she's saying, like art should be allowed to be able to be whatever it wants. And then art has the right to be criticized.
Right.
And to me, what's more frustrating is us basically bullying her out of doing a role that might have been an amazing, eye-opening film and role for the trans community is now this, fear that I feel like studios are going to have of, whoa, careful with the trans movies because that community is really aggressive and harsh and they only want it a certain way. I just worry that's actually not helpful to the cause. Right. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think to have someone as big as her play a role like that is a really good way to open up the ability for more trans people to be accepted in the industry. So I don't think that it was like a bad idea for them to do that. But I mean, who knows what's going to happen now? I don't know what are they going to. I feel like it's a really good way to get a lot of money and a lot more eyes to have like a big name actor. That's probably why they choose to do it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's like at first my initial thought was, again, and I said it, but like Hollywood's a business. Scarlett Johansson earned her right to be a box office draw, and she brings tickets. Like she will sell tickets to a movie, and that's how movies are made. That's why Hollywood works, because it's just they have to get returns on their investment. To put a non-famous newcomer trans actor in the lead role of a film, I mean, while that sounds exciting for an indie project that's going to take that chance and support that person with other stars, I don't know what the project is, but this idea that we should just, immediately start casting,
I mean, indie
I don't even
films
care
only
about,
get so big.
Right, but even beyond just even trans roles, like any movie opening with a newcomer is a huge risk. It doesn't matter trans or not or anything. It just, a newcomer doesn't necessarily open a movie. And so that's a bigger problem of Scarlett Johansson has earned the right and done that for so long that's why they did it. And so that's my biggest thing of this idea that, well, trans people deserve need work. look, nobody needs work in Hollywood. It's not. I wish I was working Hollywood. Everyone wishes they were working Hollywood. There are billions of out of work actors. It is the most unreliable way of income
Absolutely.
in the world. Like, they should work for real jobs and equality and real businesses and stuff. And the idea of representation, of course, and having those stories told, that's the issue at hand. But this idea that no, we need more, that it's a blurred line that just is frustrating. Hollywood is a business, not a charity. Now, the anger should be focused on the studios, in my opinion, because the studios are the ones who are not casting trans people in roles that, would be more regular to sort of ease it in. And I think that's where the aggression should be aimed at versus Scarlett Johansson, who I don't believe is a transphobe. Mm-hmm. And this idea that she's now being painted one, I think really does a disservice to the cause, because I've sat with a lot of people here in Florida, particularly with other cis, gender white males, and they're not as open as I am, and they're not as open-minded, and they aren't as, into this idea. And when they see how aggressive a movement can be, it just puts up defenses and makes things harder to go.
Yeah.
And my comments then are just, and I do think they're relevant to this conversation, is to change people's minds, to change ignorant minds. You can't bully them. You can't, even though you're angry, even though your struggle is genuine and real, and I can't even imagine the struggle for a trans person. I'm not trying to imagine that struggle. But the reality is, you can't force change by bullying, and you can't force change through anger and aggression. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't.
You force things and you make this movie, but what are the repercussions of forcing this movie to be canned? Does that mean less movies will be made, period? That's the bigger problem that I just feel like so many people are ignoring, because they're like, yes, we did it for the movement, but they're not, they're in their bubble there thinking that they've made a win. But I think it's a loss, because we're not having civil discourse. We're not educating people. Am I crazy? What are your thoughts on this?
No, and I think that it's unfair for them to paint her as they are, just because, like, she actually did drop the role. Like, I feel
she dropped under pressure. But...
I mean, she did, but I think that there's a lot of people that would have kept it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I think the fact that she did drop it shows, like, okay, she does care at least somewhat. Like, okay, I see that this is causing a problem in this community, and I see that this is, like, hurting a community. Let me back out of this. Let me give an opportunity to somebody else to do this, not just keep it for myself, because that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I mean, do you think, though, her comments to me rang of she was kind of frustrated that she had to do that? Did you get that
Probably.
vibrating it too? And do you think I can see why that's fair to be angry? Do you think that makes her transphobic and deserving of being canceled? I don't, for the record.
I think that's just like, okay, I had a job and now I don't have one. That's less money,
Yeah. No, fair. I think that's the reality of just this idea of, like, she's allowed to be confused. She's allowed to be slightly ignorant, and we have a job, and people, especially, and I want the same from the community. We just want to be educated, and I think this idea of educating civilly is important. Mm-hmm. And I remember I had gotten some arguments and made some comments on this on Twitter, and I got screamed that I wasn't listening, that I wasn't a supporter of the cause, and it really it gave me pause to sort of think, well, what am I doing wrong? What am I not listening to? Because I am a supporter of this cause. I really do feel like I'm listening, but I just feel like I'm being screamed at. I feel like there's no if and or but, and it's this opportunity. We can't have civil discourse on the internet, I guess, is the sad truth that this is all moot, because there are just certain ways you can't have that. And I understand there's a lot of emotion in this topic that I can't even begin to understand. But for my feelings on this, and where I want to sort of wrap up and get your thoughts, I don't believe Scarlett Johansson's transphobic. I don't believe she should be canceled. No. I believe there is a absolutely important conversation that's being had and should be being had, and there continues to need to be pushing towards the trans community to get fair representation in films. Absolutely, all those things need to happen. But Scarlett Johansson's not hiring people to make movies. Scarlett Johansson's an actress doing her job, and she is allowed to play a tree. She's allowed to play whatever she wants.
Right.
But all that said, as I did my research, there was sort of this comment of, well, no, trans people, the trans community deserves to be done those roles. And there was and one that really hit me was this sort of comparison. Well, the trans community not getting trans roles is like, back in the day when white actors just acted in blackface. And I thought that was a pretty extreme example, but then I sat with it and I thought, that's fair. There are, back in the day, they just didn't hire black actors to do roles, and that obviously is frowned upon now. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't do it. It wasn't correct. And I can see now the association to that, and I understand that argument, and that statement made me rethink some things of like, okay, noted. But where it's troublesome to me is like, Felicity Huffman, Jared Leto, all these people have done these roles, and I don't feel like it was as offensive as blackface. I think, I don't know. This is where things get more complicated. But I don't even want to try and compare the two. Like I think they are different things. But it's like this idea that a trans person should only play trans people, I guess is sound in a way, but I also think we as a community have already allowed it, and I think some people did, and it's like it did change minds, and it's sort of a way to open up the minds to sort of allow people to see, oh, like when I saw Trans America with Felicity Huffman, like it opened my eyes to a lot of stuff, and I thought she did it fantastically. She's a fantastic actress. All the college loan scandal aside, before all that, fantastic role, like an amazing role that made me realize a lot of those plights that they suffered, and I think did open a lot of minds. And I didn't see that as sort of offensive blackface movie. I saw it as a really dramatic, serious story. Do we feel like? What are your thoughts on this? Do you feel like that's a fair comparison? Do you feel like the trans community shouldn't? No one can ever play a trans role unless they're trans.
I mean, no. I think that it would be fair to let. I don't know. This is like, it's really tricky. Like,
yeah,
because
it is.
Then you're like, you'll say something, then you're like, but then when you think about another role or another person, then you're like, do I still agree with what I just said?
And I think it's fair because it's an evolving conversation. But
right.
To me, like these conversations have to be had, or we don't figure it out. Mm-hmm. Like if we keep walking this line and not trying to figure out, am I wrong? Did I say something wrong? Tell me civilly. Have a conversation with me. I'm open-minded. I want to hear this. I want to have these conversations. If we don't have these conversations, how do we create the change? Like, because it's like, of course you don't do blackface in movies, but then Robert Downey Jr. did it in Tropic Thunder, and somehow it worked. Mm-hmm. It was like a weird artistic choice that made it work. So my whole thing is like, you can never say never. You can never say nothing until you know what the art is.
I think you just have to be open to it. I mean, I feel like you can't shut everything down like before it happens. I think it's really unfair to whoever's creating it, for one. Like that's their piece. That's what they're working on. This is what they're imagining. This is not about everybody else. Like sometimes, I mean, of course, like you're making art or making movies for other people to see and for other people to enjoy. But at the end of the day, this is like your vision. This is what you were trying to do. Mm-hmm. And it's not always about what everybody else feels. So.
Right, and then sometimes it's also the studio, and there's a lot of other hands that get meddled, and the thing happens, and that's the arts of making movies. But, all right, long story short, this is a worthy, complicated conversation that I think everyone should be having, but I am grateful that we could have it civilly, and I would be open to having this these conversations continue civilly in the comments below. Tell me what you think. I think that is what this conversation needs to be, and when I may have said something I regret or was ignorant in this video for sure, but the reality is like, please tell me that politely and let's have the conversation, because I think what's happening now in the society, even beyond this issue, is just we immediately, if you say something incorrect, you are now not an ally, you are an enemy of a cause. And I think that is where things get really dangerous, because it just is, puts defenses up, it makes people feel too emotionally insensitive, and then they immediately act on the defensive. What do you mean? And that's where things go out of hand. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I understand there's emotions high on this topic, as they should be. It's a very important topic. But I think it's also important that we acknowledge trans people deserve more representation and more roles.
100%.
That said, it shouldn't just be trans roles. It should be all roles. And the question at hand of should Scarlett Johansson be able to play a trans role, I think in this role, I would have liked to see the art and then said so after I saw it.
Yeah.
I think that's really the answer. And I don't think she should be canceled for doing her job and following a director's vision to do both.
That's the whole point of acting. I mean, is to play a different role from what you are to begin with. Yep. I mean, so we already have people that play roles that they can't relate to whatsoever. We have people that play drug addicts. We have people that play anything.
Right.
And they don't know how to, they don't know what that feels like, but that's the point of acting.
Right.
And that's step into somebody else's shoes.
And that is important you say that, because that's the other reason why I think this is important. Like actors who have been acted, whether it's fair or not, I mean, they have more experience. They're going to they're going to be better actors. Now, the problem with that is obviously trans actors need more roles to get that experience and do that thing. So it's a catch-22. I get the catch-22. But again, to open movies in this day and age, to tell the story, to tell it properly, to tell it the best way possible, sadly, we're in a place where we're not there yet. And I think the reality is we can't be so aggressive to push something to happen tomorrow when if we take our time and do this the right way, we could create true change versus force the change, which I think is a really dangerous and scary habit that's happening right now. And not even just, I'm not sitting and playing that with the trans community, but just all communities online. Just, you better follow me right now or else you're enemy to me and you're dead and I'm canceling you, get the hell out of here. And that's where I think things are going off the rails tremendously. Have you noticed that? Do you think?
100%. And I think that people just, they get like, I don't want to say angry too quick. Like, I don't want to put anybody's feelings to the side because, of course, like, your feelings are important. But I think that we could bring it down a couple notches. Like, let's just have a conversation about this. Like, we don't have to, the first time somebody says something that you don't agree with, you don't just have to drop them. Like, you know, I can understand, like, you know, having people that, like, I disagree with and then being like, okay, maybe I don't want to, you know, see what you're putting out there or, like, follow what you're doing, but I don't have to, like, completely cut you out of everything. That doesn't mean that your opinion is invalid or anything like that. Like, people are allowed to have opinions. Whether they're right, wrong, whether you agree with them or not, they're still going to have them. You can't deny the fact that people are going to have opinions. So. Yeah.
And everybody's got an opinion. They're kind of like something else. I won't say the word. But as the lightning in Florida, it's a more ominous sign of what we're just talking about. If you hear the lightning, like boom, 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 boom. But it is a serious topic. I'm glad. Thank you for having it with me, Toddy. I'm excited to have you here. Come back anytime. With this topic, let's be civil in the comments below. If you are aggressive, yelling and screaming on either side, boom, I'll block you. You're out. Or I'll mute you, as they say. I don't know if people even know that. I love the mute button. People just think they're talking, but they're just talking to no one. It's an amazing opportunity. When you're too mean, we have the creators have the power. But with this topic especially, I think, please, and especially if you want to criticize me in this, I can open it up. You are allowed to. Let's just do it civilly. Please tell me where I went wrong. I promise I will listen. Let's try and work this together. And also, all I ask is let's be respectful of one another and our viewpoints. And I think that's how this change will happen more, especially with other people who aren't as open to the trans community. Mm-hmm. You know, I remember how long it took for, you know, homosexuals and stuff to be like in films regularly, and it took a while. And now today, thank God, it's pretty normal and it's not frowned upon. Modern Family, Will and Grace, all these big things made such huge impacts, and a lot of time were played by non-gay people. It's the way it works. It's the way people become comfortable.
Right.
When they're not around trans people. They don't understand what it's like. It's weird and off-putting and scary to them. You just got to meet them nicely and talk to them. And if you're not nice when they meet you, they're going to be like, wow, it's like, that person's a jerk. I don't like that. And that just is how things don't get changed correctly.
I mean, it's like with kids in school. I mean, the kids have to be willing to learn 100%, but you can't have a teacher that's just like gonna scream at the kids. Like, they're not gonna learn anything that way.
Right.
You know, they're not gonna take to that. You have to have somebody that's willing to have patience and to, like, genuinely teach them and care about the fact that they don't know these things yet, but eventually we'll get them there, you know? And you can't force it. You can't treat people like that. They're not gonna take to it.
Well said. That's a good way to end on it. Thank you, Toddy, for being here, and thank you so much for watching and bearing through this. I thought we navigated that well. I hope we'll see you in the comments below. But stay tuned. Again, double video. Let's see which performed, controversy or trailer reaction. I'm curious. You watched it, so you just made your vote. You can tweet me anytime at AndySignor. And again, new videos every day around 1 p.m. And we'll be live Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will talk about some seriously fun topics. So stay tuned, and thanks so much for watching. Bye!